So here you can see another symptom of a person who has realized the Supreme Lord. As we have been reading the various symptoms of a person who has become realized. In the previous verse, it was described in the false ego, conditioned soul acts by the covering of false ego, and he is sleeping. He was considered to be sleeping to his real identity. Just like in dream, one forgets his real identity and he takes so many different identities. So he is called as sleeping to the reality. Similarly, the conditioned soul is considered to be sleeping to reality because he is identifying himself with varieties of false, illusory identities, which he is not. So then it was described, whereas a person who has become realized, although he is walking, he is talking, all kinds of material activities he is doing, and externally looks like he is merged into the elements, material element, but actually he is free from false ego. He is awake. So that is how it was described. Next verse describes about why the conditioned soul, he is not able to perceive himself as different from matter. And we will find these questions will be asked by Devahuti. In the next chapter, Devahuti is going to ask these very important questions. She will say that matter and spirit, they have become practically amalgamated. So much so that in conditioned life, one cannot realize the importance of other because of another. Body and soul have become so much amalgamated, very difficult to segregate, very difficult to separate. Just like without body, suppose somebody is dead, you cannot feel the presence of the soul. When somebody is alive, you can feel the presence. Yes, there is soul inside. So even perceiving activities, conditioned soul requires a body. And when a person is dead and gone, we cannot perceive anything. So, whole thing is so much amalgamated in this material world. Devahuti asked this question, then how to segregate? What is the solution? So similar thing we are seeing here. when Lord Kapila is explaining, in the previous verse we saw, the living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer. Very clearly, actually, if somebody is intelligent, one can see that actually the body is different and he is only experiencing the different things happening in the body. But then example is given that this is possible when he is awake. But in the night when he goes to sleep, he finds that his identity is lost. Isn't it? We don't remember when we were sleeping. Who am I? I am a devotee, I am practicing devotional service. None of these things we realize. So looks like when you are awake and then you try to recollect that when I am awake, I can feel I am the seer. But when I am sleeping, where is the seer gone? There is nothing to be seen. So looks like it is, I am lost when I am sleeping. Similarly, then he thinks like this, I am awake, now I am live. When the body dies, I am lost. Finished. Materialistic theory. That is how people think. Yes, life is there because of whatever reason, some reasons. Yes, now I am feeling, I am the seer, all those things. But when this body is lost, everything is lost. And why does he feel so? This is because in the night when he sleeps, he finds he is lost. So similarly, when I die, everything is lost, gone. This is the reason. And the example Lord Kapila gave is, it is just like nashtaha vitta ivaturaha. It is just like when somebody who is too absorbed in money, when he loses money, if you meet such a person, he will say, I am lost, I am finished. Correct? Normally you will find, if somebody has earned a lot of money and his money is gone, everything is finished. So if you go and ask him, Swamiji, I am already finished. Because he is thinking, he is so absorbed in his money, he is thinking if money is lost, he is lost. Isn't it? This is just one example. Similarly, my children, my house, my home, attachment to all of them, when they are lost, I am lost, finished. But actually we can understand it is because of his absorption in money. Third person can identify this is just because of absorption in money he is thinking. So what is the solution? In today's verse, it is explained that if a person understands Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, everything belongs to God, when he understands this reality, so then he understands that what is lost, it was his and he has taken away. Isn't it? So money is never lost. It was his property and it is still his property. Maybe it is not in my hand. Isn't it? So he becomes awakened to reality. So very nicely in today's verse, this is described. Evam pratyavamarshaya asau atmanam pratipadhyate sa ahankarasya dravyasya yo avasthanam anugrahaha. When a person has become realized, when he has got mature knowledge and understanding, then at that state he can understand very clearly what situation he accepts under false ego. It all becomes manifest to him. That yes, it was due to false ego. I was thinking I am the proprietor. I was thinking these people belong to me. I was thinking this body belongs to me. All these things becomes very clearly manifests to him. So not only the Supreme Lord becomes manifested, the false understanding he had about this material world, the relationship which he was thinking, this is mine, this is to be enjoyed by me, all that also becomes revealed to him. So that means, just like if you see the example, in Bhagavatam, in the very first canto, when Vedavyasa, he was meditating on the Supreme Lord, what did he see? He saw the Supreme Lord. That is one thing he realized. He saw the energy of the Supreme Lord Maya and the position of Maya with respect to the Supreme Lord. He saw that with respect to the Supreme Lord, Maya is completely under the control of the Supreme Lord. And being ashamed, it is standing behind the Lord, not in the front of the Lord. He was able to see this. He also saw, with respect to the living entity, how is Maya? What is the relationship? Completely under control. The living entity's conditioned soul is completely under control of Maya. Sammohita, yaya sammohita jiva. And because of that, Atmanam Trigunatmakam, being completely bewildered by Maya, false ego, he is identifying, I am the product of three modes of material nature. You see? So everything he was able to see. And then he also saw the remedial measures. That yes, if the living entity performs devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately he can be released from the clutches of Maya. So, actually, even in our Krishna conscious life, the more we advance, the more we are able to understand our position and our different kinds of material entanglement which we had previous to coming to spiritual life. All that becomes manifest to a devotee. And he becomes very humble that actually I was so much entangled in Maya. It is all by the grace of the Supreme Lord. It is all by the grace of the spiritual master that I have come now to practice devotional service, wherein we are able to realize the falsity of material attachments which otherwise were so binding, isn't it? So, this is one of the very important aspects in devotional life, as we can see. And By this understanding, the devotee never becomes proud in his life, never thinks that I am something great. He understands that actually Maya is very, very strong, but Krishna is stronger than Maya. He is the master of Maya. So understanding his very, very small position, he always prays to the Supreme Lord for protection. See, this is very important. Until and unless we realize this, what precarious conditions we have come from, it is very difficult to stay without pride in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise you will think, I am very knowledgeable. What knowledge we had earlier, isn't it? We were also roaming in the street like people, isn't it? So what is there to become proud about? We do not know. We may be thinking, I am very learned, now I know Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, everything I know. We do not know. Maya can give one slap and finished all your pride that I am something great. So devotee never, he is always dependent on the Lord and he always prays for the protection of the Lord. That my dear Lord, I am very insignificant, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is praying. Kinkaram patitam am vishame bhavam budau. My dear Lord, I have fallen in this material ocean. So many lifetimes I have spent in this material world. Please pick me up, place me at your lotus feet. Isn't it? So until and unless we learn that actually we have to be very humble and pray for the protection of the Lord, very difficult to get out of the snares of Maya. Here we can see Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, varieties of snares of Maya is there. Even this misidentification is a snare of Maya, where one is thinking, I am one with God, I merge into the Supreme Lord. So here the example is given. Here you can see, when in the translation Prabhupada is mentioning, when by mature understanding one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him. He realizes his individuality, his connection with the Supreme Lord as his eternal servant, and then he realizes under false ego how the living entity is trapped. So Prabhupada in the purport explains that this is also another misunderstanding, which is again because of false ego. False ego means misidentifying. So this is also misidentification. I am one with God. First he is thinking I am one with matter. Now he is thinking I am Aham Brahmasmi, I am one with God. So what is it according to him? The illogic of such understanding, Prabhupada reveals in the purport very nicely. It is illogical. Little logic you apply, you can see. So according to them, here you can see there is a perceiver. Person has become realized, he is perceiving the Supreme Lord, and he is perceiving his precarious situation when he is not realized. Under ego, how was he acting? Everything is able to realize. He is perceiving. According to Mayavadis, when one becomes knowledgeable, they say there is nothing to be known because knower is not there. Knower becomes merged in He becomes one with the object of knowledge. So there are three things now, according to them. What is it? You can see here. Knower. So let us say the individual soul, they say, is the knower. Knowable. Brahman, we have to realize, that is knowable, goal of knowledge, and knowledge itself. So according to them, what happens? They say there is nothing to be knowable later on, because knower merges into knowable. That is how they think. Now imagine when a person is thinking that yes, merging into Brahman, this is also knowledge. So where is knowledge lost? Knowledge is still there. If he is still thinking, I am merging into the Brahman, or I have merged into the Brahman, that knowledge is still existing. And the person who is feeling, I have merged into Brahman, he is still existing. So where is knowable gone? So this is another Maya, this is another aspect of false ego. So this is what Prabhupada is explaining. The very concept that three merges into one is another form of knowledge. And since the perceiver of the knowledge still exists, how can one say that knower, knowledge and knowable have become one? The individual soul who is perceiving this knowledge still remains as individual. So Prabhupada explains what is the difference. Both in material existence and in spiritual existence, individuality continues. Only difference is in the quality of the identity. That is the only difference. When one is not realized, he is called conditioned. In that state of life, he is identifying himself with matter, products of matter. When he becomes self-realized, he gives up this false ego and he attains his real ego, understanding I am not part of material world, I am part and parcel of Supreme Lord. So, this misconception is removed. In material identity, the false ego acts, and because of false identification, one takes things to be different from what actually they are. That is the basic principle of conditioned life. Similarly, when the false ego is purified, one takes everything in the right perspective. That is the state of liberation. So when his false ego is purified, then he takes everything into right perspective. Same example Prabhupada is giving from the last purport. When one is under the false impression or false ego, he identifies, he is absorbed in his money, and he is thinking when money is lost, he is thinking he is lost. And when one becomes realized, then what is his concept? Prabhupada is explaining, he understands this is energy of Krishna. Krishna and his energy are non-different. And Krishna says, I am different from my energy. I am not in my energy personally, but it belongs to him. So where is the money lost? It is not lost. It is still his energy only. Isn't it? So, when one clearly understands one's constitutional position, everything becomes manifest. False egoistic acceptance of things conditions one. Acceptance of things as they are makes one liberated. Example in the previous verse is applicable. Due to absorption of one's identity in money, when the money is lost, he thinks that he is also lost. But actually he is not identical with money, nor does the money belong to him. When the actual situation is revealed, what is the actual situation? we understand money does not belong to any individual person or living entity, nor it is produced by man. Ultimately, money is the property of the Supreme Lord. There is no question of it being lost. But as long as one falsely thinks, I am the enjoyer, I am the Lord, this concept of life continues and one remains conditioned. So as long as one will think, body is mine, this is mine, money is mine, then till that time his bondage will continue, conditioned life will continue. And the moment he understands that actually I am none of them, I am spiritual, I am part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, I am eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, and all this belongs to Him. It is meant for His enjoyment, it is not meant for my enjoyment. When one understands the reality and he employs everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, then he has become liberated. Same thing. Jivan mukta sa uchyate. Same thing is very nicely again being described here further. So we'll stop with this. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.